Okay. And then I want to thank you for including Objective 1.3, the reading goal. I wanted to ask, what are some of the specific things well, I guess I want to start with grades K through 4. We offer reading K through 6. Mm-hmm. We only offer reading support K through 4. Is that why the number only goes K through 4?
I think it was to start with the elementary school this year and,
okay.
and see what's learned, at that point.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry, continue with your
And then
question.
the next question, or the next part of that question is, can you tell me some of the things that you intend to do to identify student needs and learning profiles on the one side, and then measuring them and reporting out to the parents on the other side?
So we know that students who enter reading support have varied needs, at times, and that might be one learning profile versus another. And those needs might be screened or assessed differently, and they may also require different strategies to respond to students who have that need. So I think one thing would be looking at how it is that we screen students and how it is that we identify different reading needs, and then ensuring that the instructional practices that are suited to those reading needs, the best practices are in place.
Okay. And then the reporting out?
The reporting out to, well, one of the things I guess that we already know is that I believe that we have opportunities with the data that we're gathering with individual students, that it can be used by our reading professionals to continue to work with the students. It isn't in a great form for us to learn systemic trends. There's labor involved, and we're going to do some of this labor this year to analyze how students are doing as a whole, or across a grade level, or a school or a program. So as we gather that information to show some of the progress system-wide or program-wide that is being made, we also have seen some other programs that might make that easier for us to do moving forward. And similarly, these programs can provide information on individual students, not just to instructors, but to parents as well. So we want to make sure that parents have the information about their own students, in reading support or potentially in reading in general, that they might find useful or want to have about how their kids are doing in reading.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Whitlow?
Yeah, just going off of Kate with the objective 1.3 on goal number 1. When you're looking at student progress, are you looking at achievement or growth, or what kind of progress are we looking at for the student?
Particularly, we want students to make progress toward reading where they need to be. If they're not on grade level,
yeah.
that they're effectively progressing toward reading on grade level as quickly as possible.
Okay.
That's the first cut, but we want all students to be growing as well. It's all those things. Students should get they should be growing. If they're in reading for a year, they should be growing at least that rate. We hope that's true. And we also, the overall achievement of our students is also important. They just measure different things.
And then can you tell me a little bit about the data sources that would be used to measure like growth versus achievement?
Well, there's lots of assessments that the students use or the teachers use with the students when they're working with them in reading support. So that could be, for example, some of the information that is gathered. Dibbles, for example, is given for some of the students in reading support. That's norm referenced, and data is gathered at different times during the year, so that's one way you can see students making progress, but it doesn't necessarily, it may be more or less effective depending upon the learning profile for the student. There are also benchmark assessments that are given to our students that we would also be including, as well as any other standardized tests or running records that our teachers keep on how kids are doing. So it could be a number of things. That's one of the challenges when you present the data. It comes from different sources, and putting it all together into a story that's meaningful to the instructors and to the parents is something that we'd like to get as strong as we can with.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Dr. Tinsky?
I actually want to go back to 9.5.
And I'm just wondering if maybe in the September meeting we can maybe elaborate a little bit more just on the timeline of how progress toward goals will be presented to the board. I think especially with like reading goals and we're collecting hard data, if we can have some sort of timeline on when that information will be presented, I think that would be really helpful.
Okay, I will talk to you about what you have in mind, and we can flesh out how that might look for September.
Hi, I've met most of you. My name is Kate Mayer. I'm part of a group called Everyone Reads TE, which is a parent-run reading advocacy group who has been meeting with Dr. Gusick, Dr. Tal, and some other folks to talk about reading in Tredyffrin Easttown, and specifically in the school. Our mission is to ensure that all students in TE learn to read to their highest potential with as little emotional impact as possible by using instructional practices based in the science of reading. We came to this mission through personal experiences with our own children who weren't successful in the general education reading programs. And for some of us, we came to this mission also through experiences in our own classrooms as teachers. As you know, we've been advocating within the district for 3 specific things: increased awareness of the different profiles for struggling readers and how to identify and intervene for these profiles, general education curriculum and professional development rooted in the science of reading, and clear, efficient, and reliable data collection and sharing so that all stakeholders, including parents, educators, and board members, can understand students' reading progress and what growth means. We are incredibly grateful that the district and the board has agreed to begin partnering with us and looking at reading within the district. And we're really excited that there are some reading goals in this year's plan. As you begin to analyze these goals and look at finalizing them and looking at reviewing the efficacy of our reading program, we ask that you craft your goals so that parents, teachers, administrators, and the school board can all understand what our expectations are using clear, consistent, measurable data to set these goals. So being able to measure what the goal is and what the outcome should be. So if we're talking about a year of growth, what does that look like? How do we measure that? Dr. Gusick said that that's the expectation for every student, is that we see 1 year of growth. What does that look like? As a board, as parents, as administrators and teachers, we should be able to talk about that clearly and know that kids are doing that. We also ask that you review the entire reading program, because readers, especially struggling readers, a lot of times are not caught in grades K through 3, K through 4. This is a problem that goes K through 12 for some readers, not all. And there's the percentage of struggling readers is about 20% out of the population. We as a group recently released a survey for TE parents, private school and public school parents within the district, and we've gotten over 240 responses. And there are a few things that have jumped out already. We're not done reviewing the data, and the survey is still up. But the couple of things that have jumped out is that a majority of parents are saying that they are not clear what their child's reading profile is. So that's for primarily struggling readers who are in reading support or who have IEPs in special education. They don't know what their weaknesses are or what's being done to address those weaknesses. They also don't know, and this is for general education and special education and reading support, what their child's growth in reading is and how that's measured. Lastly, many parents, a large majority of parents, don't understand general education reading data and benchmarks, or they're not receiving that data. We'd be happy to share this survey with everyone. We'd also love for any parents who are here to take the survey at tereads.com. And again, we want to thank the district and the board for partnering with TE Reads and working on these goals. Thank you.
But there are other places, and I'm not going to go through all of them, where one might ask, what is the specific output? And I think Mr. Clark alluded to that point. I happen to agree with him that I think as much as is possible, we should try to give an example of what the expected output is. Because to me, that speaks to a measurable goal. And if a goal isn't measurable, probably shouldn't be a goal. But I find myself finding certain places where I could say there might not be an understood potential output from this objective.
Okay. Comments? Thank you for clarifying that.